Alright, this is going to be a spoiler review, and I really can't find a way to make this spoiler free, alright? Because my problems with this movie come whenever there are spoilers in it, alright? So this is spoiler free. This is not a spoiler free review, alright? If you haven't seen the movie, watch it now before watching this video, alright? So 2022 has been a really weird year. Mark Zuckerberg lost a lot of money with the metaverse. I mean, it was obvious. Elon Musk owns Twitter, and we got like three different Pinocchio movies. We got the good, we got the bad, and the ugly. The bad being Disney's Pinocchio, and the ugly being Del Toro's Pinocchio, and the best one, all of them being the Pauly Shore one, because that movie has everything. It is the best Pinocchio of all time. I'm just joking. I haven't seen it, because who has the time to watch Pinocchio, a true story? Anyways, Del Toro's Pinocchio I thought was really good and really fun to watch. Now, I'm going to talk about my negatives first before going to positives, like in every review I do. So, my negatives with this movie is that I really thought we were going to get a character arc for Candlewick's father, because Candlewick already, because Candlewick represents that, like, oh, the kid is afraid of what his father will say to him after he says no for the first time. And then when he finally says no to his father, his dad freaking dies, and I was like, I would really love to see a character arc with this father, but if some of y'all guys are saying, I think it's good because the movie's dark. Yeah, I know the movie is dark and it's not afraid to embrace its darkness, but can we at least show a little sympathy for the a-hole dad? I really love to see him show some compassion. All right. My second negative with this movie is that there are some scenes that are like a bit rushed. Like me and my sibling have the same thoughts. Like Pinocchio. Like, how do I say this? Like one scene, Pinocchio finally fights against. Like there's one scene where he gets shot, and the next scene he gets a military academy, and then like we have a 2-minute speech, and then finally his dad Candlewick's son gets killed, and then he gets captured by his captor, and then he goes in the ocean, and yeah, you can kind of see what problems are if you've seen this movie. Also, there are some unnecessary songs placed in this, like how Pinocchio sings about whenever he's found some new stuff, and he just says, "I like it," and I felt that was really unnecessary, and it doesn't even last over a minute, so that was unnecessary. Also, I didn't like how the showrunner was singing, played by Christoph Waltz, which I think this is like his 50 billionth time playing as a villain in a movie. But so yeah, there are some unnecessary songs in this movie. And now to the positives. Those are really all my negatives with this movie. That I feel kind of rushed, even though it's like 2 hours. I wish I could have seen a character arc with Candlewick's father, and that there are some unnecessary songs. Now to the positives. The positives is that the animation is really well. You can really feel the tension. Because fun fact, this movie has been in production for 15 years. They've been running out of money making the project, and then they wanted Pinocchio to be 2D, but Del Toro said no to make it stop motion, and then Netflix started funding the movie, and then that's whenever they were like, hey, we can finally make this movie now. And I just felt like those years were finally worth it. The animation looks amazing. Another thing I like about this movie is the score, and I also like how Alexander Desplat wanted to make Pinocchio's theme made of wooden instruments. Only consisted of wooden instruments. Get it? Because Pinocchio's made of wood. Another thing I like is that they don't use Jiminy Cricket, because I don't think that's the name of the cricket in the story. And his name in this one is Sebastian J. Cricket, with the J, I suppose, being Jiminy. And I also love that instead of the other versions where Geppetto made Pinocchio for love, Geppetto in this movie made Pinocchio out of a drunken fit, and I really love it. And it's dark. And speaking of dark, I really like how this movie embraces its dark material. Like it's not afraid to make some kids have nightmares. It's not afraid to show some death. Not afraid to show some animal abuse. And it's not afraid to show some animal abuse, which I'm sure PETA is going to strike them. And one thing I also love about this movie is that Pinocchio looks like a freaking wooden puppet. In the other versions, he looks like a boy. Like literally, in the in the Disney Pinocchio one, the live action and the animated one, the boy looks like the boy looks like he's like made of flesh and bone kind of. But in this one, he is actually made of wood. But it wasn't made of the wood that was screaming in pain every single time every single time Geppetto was shaving the wood. It wasn't screaming in pain. Another thing I really like about this movie is that Sebastian has like a character arc in this movie. Like at first he's like, "Oh, look at this, my home," and then his home gets cut down. He's like, "Hey, that's my property," you know. And then no, and then a bunch of like crappy stuff happens to him, which I think the slapstick for Sebastian is really funny. And then at the end he's like, "No, you know what? Bring back Pinocchio." Another thing I like about this movie is that throughout the movie, Sebastian, he is like, "I'm gonna sing a song how my daddy told me," and then freaking everybody squashes him before he can finish his song. And then at the end of the movie, during the credits roll, he sings his song, and I thought that was really nice. Also, I really love the world building in this movie. Like when Pinocchio dies, the Death Angel says to him that since he's immortal, every single time he gets revived, it will take longer. So I really love the creativity with Del Toro, the world building creativity that Del Toro has. And speaking of Del Toro's creativity, I love the creature designs in this movie. Well, except for the sea beast, he looks kind of average in my opinion. But the angels look amazing in this movie. Like they're both scary and mesmerizing to look at. And yeah, I know that Del Toro movies usually prefer atmosphere over storytelling, but in this one, I guess it did. I guess it did a little bit of both of them. And for people saying that the CGI kind of looks bad for the splash effects, I just think they look alright. Not good or bad, just alright. See, that's what it is. Pinocchio is fun. It's fun visually and story. It's fun in a visual and storytelling way. It'll entertain both kids and adults, especially adults, and probably fathers. And I really feel like this is a movie people should see. I give this movie a somewhere between an 8 and 9 out of 10. Now, for those of you who are saying, is this the best Pinocchio movie? In my opinion, yes and no. Well, yeah, well, it is the best animated Pinocchio movie. I gotta say, the best Pinocchio movie has to be the Matteo Garrone Pinocchio, because, come on, because Roberto Benigni is in this movie, and he made a wonderful life in the OG Pinocchio. Need I say more? So yeah, anyways, take care. Watch the movie. It's on Netflix. It's really good, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.